But okay, we won't have predictions. We won't have predictions open for this next series because we're already jumping in mid-series and we're getting ready for game number 3, the final game, to determine who advances on to the semifinals. Here we go. As we get ready for this, a massive shout out as well to some people in the chat. It did occur in the middle of that game, but a shout out to Count Bebop for subscribing for 2 months with Twitch Prime. Thank you, puppy. Thank you. Do appreciate the support. Do appreciate all the love, and I hope you have been enjoying yourself. Hope you enjoy the emotes and the content as well. So thank you, puppy. Thank you. Thank you so much. Also, a shout out to Ranger as well. Ranger did give us a raid in the middle of that game. Hope you had a great stream. Hope you had a great ladder session. Thank you so much. As we are here in KungFu Cup Round 2, Week 2, in the quarterfinals to determine who faces off against Dark in the semis. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Hecate, we have the South Korean Protoss player representing Twisted Minds. It is Classic. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the French Terran player representing Team Liquid. It is Clem. Here we go. Again, we mentioned before, but Classic is the final Protoss. He's the final Protoss player of the tournament. Like, all the Protoss hopes and dreams lie on him, and Clem is going to be kicking things off here with an eBay block. SCV gets across the map, does go the long way around, of course, towards the natural to delay the expansion and to force Classic to expand elsewhere. Meanwhile, Classic looking for proxies over on the right-hand side before going for his scout. A little bit paranoid. Unfortunately, we weren't able to cast Game 1 or Game 2. We weren't able to see them, so we don't really know what happened throughout this series and between the two of them. But again, Classic just being a little bit paranoid and is forced to take the linear third base instead. Again, for those wondering, because there's too much progression on this eBay, because it's almost done, it's just not worth it for the Protoss player to pull workers and to try to force a cancel, so they're forced to just expand elsewhere, and this will be making Classic very vulnerable in the early to mid game. Classic is going to have to try to split up his units and try to spread out and defend both his natural and his main base. And if Clem wanted to, he can take advantage of Classic by being overly aggressive with Hellions, with Cyclones, with early Marines, with just early aggression. He can be in the face of Classic and try to break him before he can really get going. Which is why I love this from Classic. He throws in a pylon here as a part of the ramp, alongside his tech of choice, which is a Stargate, and this is to fully wall off, to deny any kind of like dive into the main base, again, just because he has to do what he can to be as defensible as possible. And we are going for initial Cyclones. 2 Cyclones are on the way, and again, we were talking about it earlier, but in TvP, in the early game, Cyclones, they do play a role, and they can be quite impactful. We're going for a CC behind this. And this should only be 2 Cyclones, but we'll see if we commit and we make more. Now, there we go. It's going to be 2 Cyclones into 2 Hellions. The Cyclones can deal with the army. The Hellions deal with the economy. Their role is to try to slip on by to get into those mineral lines. And here we go. Clem is moving out. And even though Cyclones are glass cannons, even though they're very fragile, early on there aren't that many units. And Clem, he can snowball out of control, and there we go. We get a lock on. One Adept is looking to go down, and it will fall already. The other Adepts managed to shade away. The Oracle does get focused down. This is becoming too much. Yeah, the Adepts are falling one after the other, and this may just be game. There's nothing left. We get into the mineral line. GG gets called, and Clem will take the series 2-1, advancing onto the semifinals, eliminating the final Protoss player of the tournament. GG. GG, well played. Again, Cyclones in the early game of TvP, they can be terrifying. They can the new Cyclone can be terrifying, and it wasn't just the new Cyclone, but also the fact that Classic was forced to spread out between his bases, forced to split up his units, and just be caught out in the open. So very good setup there from Clem. He was able to lay it up and knock it down, and yeah, with that, GG. A bit of an anticlimactic end to the series and end of that game, but that's how it goes. GG.